It has been said that in Twilight Struggle, you need to know the cards well in order to play well. Well, we're going to take you through every card one by one, and we're going to help you become a master at Twilight Struggle. This is Legendary Tactics. This card is hands down the best US early war event, and maybe of the game. It's no secret that this is a card the US wants to play early. But what about the Soviets? How can they manage this card? Let's take a look. This event is powerful, allowing the placement of up to 7 influence with a single card play. It is an American start event card that otherwise provides 4 operations points. Triggering the event allows the US to play 1 influence in up to 7 Western European countries that are not under Soviet control. So what can the Soviets do about this one? 4 ops in the early war can be great, but at what cost? The first instinct is to send it to space, which certainly becomes more attractive if you are under Red Scare Purge. The 4 ops are hard to give up, but depending on the situation might be desirable or even necessary. The second thing that can be done is to control the 2 stability countries like Turkey, or Greece, or even Spain, Portugal. While it's unlikely you'll get all 3 under control before this event is triggered, it would certainly send the American influence to other higher stability countries that are much less valuable because they take more influence to control. The third possibility is playing it along with UN intervention, which is obviously the best option, but requires having UN intervention in hand, which is never guaranteed. If you can avoid triggering Marshall Plan until later in the game, it is much better for the Soviet player. Essentially, it wastes the benefit because in many cases the US will only be topping up countries that they already control, or adding influences to countries that don't matter, as the balance of power in Europe will be more locked down and a card like Marshall Plan isn't going to change the equation. Don't forget to play NATO first if you have Marshall Plan or even Warsaw Pact in hand, as you generally don't want to trigger NATO sooner than you have to. Although the devil's advocate in me says that it's not a bad idea to get 2 high ops American cards out of play to skew the deck in your favor ahead of the turn 3 reshuffle. For the US player, this is one of the best turn 1 headlines you could think of, especially as it means you can actually change your opening setup to allow for it. Control of the 2 stability countries of Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Turkey can prevent Soviet domination of Europe and save you a boatload of victory points. If you can keep control of France, it may give the US domination of Europe, which is a great place to start the late war from. The Marshall Plan gives you a great head start in each of these places. So let's take a look at some different opening setups. If you're playing with a 2 influence handicap for the US, and if you have Marshall Plan in hand, you can set up with 3 influence in West Germany, 2 in France, 3 in Italy, and 2 in Iran. Then, when you headline Marshall Plan, it sets up a potentially horrific European scoring for the Soviets. With 4 influence now in Italy, winning a coup there will be very tough unless the Soviets have headlined socialist governments. The only exception to that might be if you had de Gaulle leads France in hand, in which case you would likely go with a more normal setup for your Marshall Plan headline, and then play de Gaulle later to leave France at a 3-1. And from there, overprotecting Italy and France will basically mean Europe will be under your control for the rest of the game, and the Soviets had better hope for an early win before the late war arrives, along with those deadly US events that impact Europe. An alternative setup that is completely viable would be 3 influence in West Germany, 2 in Italy, 1 in Greece, and 1 in Turkey, which gives you a head start in 2 of the 2 stability Mediterranean countries, which can stave off Soviet domination of the continent. The other advantage to playing Marshall Plan early is that it empowers the NATO card, which in turn empowers cards like Special Relationship. Is there a downside to headlining Marshall Plan as the US and going all in on Europe early? Well, perhaps. Opinion seems divided on that. There are some downsides. Going strong into Europe means you have less ops to spend in Asia and in the Middle East. And this means that the USSR is less likely to compete for Europe early and will spend more ops in those regions, and perhaps beyond. You may be overcommitting to a region that, if the Soviets use the 5-year plan card to get rid of the European scoring card they have in hand, might not be scored until much later. And a Soviet headline of socialist governments followed by European scoring can still be problematic. Also, if the Soviets see your initial setup, they may realize that there will not be defectors played as a first turn headline, so they can headline Red Scare Purge, Destalinization, Decolonization, or any other nasty card they choose. If you really want to do something sneaky, set up for an obvious Marshall Plan headline, whether you have it or not, and then play defectors anyway. Guaranteed to enrage the Russian Baron to flipping the table on the first turn. And a US headline like Middle East scoring, especially with a 1 or 2 op influence handicap, which gives you Iran, might just be better. There's no question that in later turns, though, this event becomes less and less helpful to you as countries fall under control by either side, and the impact of those 7 influence becomes much less. So if you're going to play it early. Here's the recommended list of where to place the influence that you get from this event. First of all, the 2 stability countries of Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Turkey. Next, top up West Germany and Italy. Then top up Canada in anticipation of the NORAD event, if you are playing with that card. Next up, top up the UK in anticipation of the Suez Crisis event, or to replace influence lost already by that event. Then, France, especially if you control it already or if you have plans to control it soon. France may have higher priority than this depending on the game situation. And then finally, Benelux and Denmark, because these are 3 stability countries that have an outside chance of being controlled by you at some point. The 4 stability countries like Norway and Sweden, or even Finland and Austria, just take too much influence to control, even after the bonus influence that the Marshall Plan provides. So for the Soviets, try to kick the can down the road on this one. Strongly consider sending it to the space race, but if you can't, see if you can position yourself so it won't have as great an impact. For the US, this is one that you will want to take the event and as soon as possible, preferably at some point in turn 1. 4 ops is a lot to give up, especially in the early war, but this event is just too darn good to waste, especially as it becomes less effective as the game drags on. This has been our analysis of the Marshall Plan event card in Twilight Struggle. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you got some value out of this, and if you did, please like, please subscribe. And this is NATO with Legendary Tactics. We look forward to seeing you next time.